Chamber of E-Commerce. Today we have a very interesting topic, especially knowing that a big chunk of our audience, a lot of the folks that follow us are entrepreneurs, of course, business owners, but we have talked for many different, in many different occasions, the importance of having the right processes, the right strategy in your business. So today we're going to be touching a little bit on that. Victoria is going to present to us a system that she has used with many of her clients, and actually she has helped many of them to increase their revenue exponentially. So I'm very excited for this webinar because of what it's going to represent for those that decide to implement this system that Victoria is going to present to us. Victoria, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here today, and thank you for all that you've done to set me up for success. I'm so delighted to speak to this community. I've lived here in San Diego for 20 years, and I know there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs and for business owners. So for those of you tuning in today, and if you're watching it on demand, I hope this investment of your hour in time will really help you get exponential rewards. It can be about revenue, and really it's just about getting what you want from your business. So with that, let's go to the crazy title slide for the presentation today.
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry, let me put you on solo.
Yeah,
go
very
Victoria.
Good. Yeah, this is called Get a Grip on Your Business. Sometimes our business has a grip on us. It's running us instead of us running our business effectively. What I'm going to cover today are 6 key ways to getting what you want from your entrepreneurial company. What I'll be describing is something called EOS, which stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Every good meeting should have some objectives, so let's go to the next slide and explore what those are. As a certified implementer, one of my core values is to help first. I have had a family business. I've run an entrepreneurial company. My pain goes out to the small businesses who are really the backbone of our economy. So I want to bring all of my knowledge and life experience here today to help you run a better business. I'm going to do that by introducing the EOS model. It's a very simple model, easy to apply to any business. I want you to learn new tools today that you can use now. It's not complex or complicated. And most of all, I want to have some fun. We had a few fun minutes before we were logging on here today, and we're going to continue that in our session for the hour. So those are our objectives. I hope those are met at the end. We'll check in. Our agenda today, moving on to the next slide. Here we all are. That's a snapshot. I'm sure you're out there in the ether world. Let's get real with each other. I'm going to share with you my background and how I got here, and I want to ask a few questions around you. I'm going to keep it, again, very simple. This isn't overly complex. It's just proven to deliver results. And then finally, that's what it's all about. Where the rubber meets the road, that's where you get traction. Okay, next slide. Getting real. I'm going to give a little bit about me. Let's click into this. Next slide. My background is living these core values. Getting real is about, I'm going to share with you about me and my background, the background of EOS. Then I'm going to turn the table and ask questions about you and go through the model. Next slide, please. About me. So I have worked with and for companies of all sizes, and the common theme was they were all small when I began. I had a family-run business, a sock mill back in Vermont called Darn Tough. I also worked for Burton Snowboards, where I started the kids division and grew it to $25 million in 3 years. We had team riders out here in Del Mar in San Diego, and that's what brought me to this beautiful city. And here in San Diego, I worked for Skills. It's a sports products training company. And then I finally worked at Vistage International, a peer group. That was where I first heard someone speak about the model EOS. And I thought, wow, I have been a systems and process person my entire career, and here it all is in a very easy to use, easy to apply system. Now, simple isn't easy, but it's very applicable to your business. The concepts I'll be covering with you today are outlined in the book Traction, and also the book What the heck is EOS? Traction and EOS are both available in Spanish, if that would be your preferred language to learn about them. These books were written by Gino Wickman. Gino is a serial entrepreneur. At 25 years old, he entered the family business and realized he had a knack for understanding what entrepreneurial companies were about. He started EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization in Detroit, grew that to 85 members, and that's where he began forming the model around EOS. What he realized is that entrepreneurial companies, and by that I mean privately held companies with 10 to 250 employees, between $1 and $50 million in revenue, they have a special way about them that they really need systems and process different from publicly run companies or maybe just a lifestyle business. So that's who he was targeting. The three things that Traction or EOS deliver are what we call vision, traction, and healthy. Vision in that you have one, somebody else has one, it's sort of out there. Everybody, can you see what I'm saying? But imagine getting a shared vision where everyone in your organization knew what that vision was. Traction, everyone also working with more accountability and discipline to achieve that vision. And finally, this beautiful overlay of healthy or team health. So everywhere you look, your people are working on building a great culture, a great community, and you get to work with people that you love. That is really what I enjoy most about the EOS system, this baked-in team health. My core values are to help first, be humbly confident, do the right thing, do what you say, and grow or die. EOS certainly is a system for leadership teams that are more afraid of the status quo than of learning or changing or doing something new. This is my 7th year of being an EOS implementer, and I hope it's something that I can do the rest of my life. I'm very passionate about helping business owners like you. So with that, let's go into the next slide. And first, I'm going to ask, maybe in the chat, we could find out how many of you here today are a business owner. And if you are a business owner, just say, yup, or that's me in the chat so we can get an indication. And you can help me out by telling me how many people are weighing in. And then how many of you run the day-to-day stuff of your business? And if that's you, check in with your city. Let's see where people are coming in from, different parts of San Diego and around the country, maybe. And finally, how many of you work for one of those two roles? You work for a business owner or somebody who's running the day-to-day of the business. So with that, could you help me out and share who's here with us here today on this webinar?
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how many replies we get. So don't be shy, guys. Please engage with Victoria, and we're going to be monitoring your answers, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn.
Nice. Well, chances are good you're in one of those three roles. You're a business role, you run the day-to-day, or you report to one of those two positions. Regardless of where you are in the organization, I want you to answer this question. Get out a sheet of paper and a pen and just think for a moment. What do you want from your business? And I want you to write this down in a time frame that's a little bit longer than what you may normally think about for your business. 5 to 7 years, and state it in 3 to 7 words. Now, if you're a business owner, maybe you want to sell your business or pass it to the next generation. Maybe you want to buy more businesses and grow and scale. Maybe you'd like to make it a professionally managed so you could actually get out and do things that you enjoy. If you're in the day-to-day, maybe you want systems and process that just make your life easier. And if you run a department or you're a tactical provider in your organization, maybe you want to grow in your career or have direct reports or specialize in a different area. This will be tagging into your why. Why is it important? I want you to think about this goal as I go through the model and the tools here today, because my goal is to help you find an answer to this goal. What do you want from your business? Hopefully you all have something down on paper. That's how you play along. And with that, let's go to the next slide. Many people find their way to EOS because they have one of these frustrations. Well, control or simply lack of it. My goodness, what a year we have behind us where we had very little control from the outside world on many of the things that were impacting our business. Profit, or specifically not enough of it. Profit was an interesting measurable to look at through the pandemic. I had clients who both scaled up and had to contract their business. For some who contracted the business, the profit actually got better. For some who scaled up, the profit actually went away because they had to grow and scale in a very quick period of time. So we want to look at profit. Profit is a source of frustration for many business owners or department heads. Finally, next, people. We certainly are having our share of people issues through this. We had to make really tough, hard people decisions throughout this last year. And now business owners, I just read today, HR professionals are caught off guard because they're having to scale to support the economy, which is going to open up very rapidly. People issues are going to continue to be one of the headlines and agonies for business owners around the world. Hitting the ceiling. You may have just hit the ceiling, about 50% of you just have, or 50% of you are about to. This means you are doing what you've always done, and you're getting different results. Certainly, we can all relate to that after this last year. And then finally, nothing's working. You end your day at 5 o'clock and you feel like nothing on your to-do list got done because your systems and process are simply failing you. These are common frustrations that EOS can help bring resolution to. Please consider writing down one of those that you're having the most difficulty with today. Control, profit, people, hitting the ceiling, or nothing's working. And hopefully that will bring questions into our Q&A at the end of the session today. With that, let's go to the next slide. I'm moving on into how to keep it simple. How to keep it simple. Going to take a first pass around the EOS model. Next slide, please. And I've done my very best to put some of the keywords in Spanish, if that will help you navigate. To the degree you can take the 157 shiny things that plague you every day in your business and strengthen the 6 key components, you will find that all those 157 shiny things just disappear. These are 6 key components of your business, and now I'm beginning to get into that model where I want you to begin to think differently about your business, to see it in a whole new light. If you notice at the center of this model, it's about your business. When you are making business decisions that are good for the enterprise and not for special interests or single people, your business tends to be far healthier, far more aligned and equitable. Making decisions about your business begins with creating a very crystal clear vision that everyone in the organization shares and sees themselves as a part of. When you have that vision, notice I'm moving over into the 10 o'clock component, the people component. We hear the phrase often, right people, right seats, but how do you define that? We have 2 tools within EOS that assure that you're bringing the right people into the organization and giving them the right seats to deliver upon the vision. Moving on over into data. What gets measured gets managed. To the degree you can set the numbers, dashboards into place where you can measure success, you're going to be a winning team. You'll be far more successful in managing the human effort of your organization. All right, so we've created this great vision. We have the right people in the right seats performing upon it. We are measuring our expectations. Now we drop down into what every business has. These are issues. To the degree you can set your issues up, knock them down, and make them go away forever, you're going to be far more successful. Some of the clients I've worked with in my 7 years, we will finally tackle issues and they say, Victoria, these have been around for 5 years. Finally, we have found a way to make this go away for good. Moving on into the 4 o'clock process component. This is the magic part of an entrepreneurial company. It's almost like creating your franchise model, documenting and creating the very best, most profitable way to deliver your value each and every time will truly enhance the growth opportunity for your organization. And then finally, in traction, there are two tools within the EOS model that help you gain traction on your vision. Now let's go to the next slide for a punchline. Vision without traction is hallucination. So many people, they'll say, well, I hope it happens. Hope is not a very good strategy. And if you think you're going to get somewhere without some methodology of making daily, weekly, and quarterly progress, well, you are hallucinating, I'm sorry to tell you. So think about that, and that's a fun thing to consider when you look at your goals. Are you hallucinating? All right, next slide, please. So I went through the model, and I will share with you the goal with EOS is to get you up to 80% performance in each of these 6 key components of your organization. EOS Worldwide, there are great tools and resources there. I'll give you the web address at the end to help you with that. Before every client begins their journey, we do what is called an organizational checkup. And if you go to the next slide, we find that most organizations, they're operating at 20%. We've quantified this over 10,000 companies, and we find that 20% in vision, they don't have any alignment in any of these 6 key components. So imagine if you could actually raise the performance level in any one of these by a factor of 60%, what kind of lift, what kind of improvement you would get in your organization. Sure, would we love 100%? That's nirvana. We won't ever get there. But if you can make that change, just an incremental step, 5%, 20%, 30%, you will truly feel the lift and alignment in your organization. That's the first pass at the model and the overview. Now I'm going to take a second pass around in and dig into each of the tools under each of these 6 key components. With the next slide, it will begin with the vision component. The vision component begins with answering 8 key questions about your organization. And in the next slide, the top of this document, it's called a Vision Traction Organizer. The first questions we ask are, what are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your 10-year target? What is your marketing strategy? How about your 3-year picture? Where will you be in 3 years? The next page, dropping down. What is your 1-year plan? What are your rocks? And I'll get into the definition of that a little bit later. And then finally, what is your issues list? Things you know you need to address as a leadership team. That's the first pass. Now I'm going to go through each section in a little bit more detail. It all begins, every great company begins with your core values. EOS takes you through a process of discovering what your core values are. They don't come from an outside firm, but they really come from within. In that process of discovery, you find the 5 to 7 core values that truly define the funky funk of your organization. It's okay that these are a little quirky, because when everyone lives and shares these core values, they all read it and they go, yeah, I get that. Once you define them and roll them out into your organization, you find ways to live and breathe them every day. Starting first with the leadership team through this process of discovery, and then finally throughout the entire organization. So you see evidence of your core values in action everywhere. These aren't really things that you put on a t-shirt and a coffee mug. Those are great tools as reminders, but really getting your core values into the DNA of your organizations. They are defining the behaviors for the people that you want to attract to your company. If you have core values, maybe explore and say, are these the right core values? Or do we just simply think they were a good idea? They should be enduring. They should truly be who you are at your core when they're well-defined, and they should really, truly never change. So that's what core values are, and they're incredibly important when we get into the people component. What I'll ask you to do is, if you have core values for the organization, write those down on a page right now. And if you can't remember them, then I'll say, wouldn't it be great if they were memorable? And you could actually pull them out of your toolbox every day to define the behaviors. That's what core values are. Let's move on into the next slide. Again, you're seeing that word core. It is who you are at the essence. Getting back in touch with your core focus. What your core focus is simply a very simple statement of what is your purpose, what is your cause, or what is your passion. Get back in touch with why your organization came about in the first place, and put it out there as a BHAG, or as Jim Collins says, a big, hairy, audacious goal. At our core, what is our why? Why are we here? In EOS, sometimes there's a monetary number to this. You want to be a certain, that's in 10-year target. Your core focus is simply stated as your passion, your purpose for being. Within yet your niche, who is it that you serve within your core focus? And that will give you a true definition of why are we here and who do we serve with this, our mission. I see a question from Vanessa, and since it popped up, I will answer. It's best to have between 5 and 7 core values. Any more, and you simply won't be able to remember them all. Me personally, and the clients I've worked with, 5 seems to be about the sweet spot. All right, so we have core values, core focus. That's what your core business is about. Now let's move on into the next slide, please. This is 10-year target, and this is where I jumped ahead. Sometimes you have a financial component to this. You want to have a certain revenue number within 10 years, but it can also be something that is aspirational for your organization. I've had some companies say, we always want to be the best on the best places to work within San Diego County, or we just have a target to serve our community in a certain way. Your 10-year target, just like every answer on the Vision Traction Organizer, will be very specific and unique to your organization. And this gets into the question I asked you when we began today. What do you want from your business? Now, we recommend a 10-year target. It's a little too far out for you to really know, but it can be anywhere from 5 to 30 years. It really depends on what your personal goals are for your organization. When you keep that one goal in mind, it really helps keep on track. The story I like to share with 10-year target, one of my favorite things to do is to go kayaking at dusk. And after the sun has set, I turn around back to the shore, and there's usually one pinpoint of light that helps guide my way back to the dock. And I can't see anything else around me, but I see that one pinpoint of light, and that guides me through the darkness. So when you set your 10-year target, it really is that bright point of light on the horizon. You're not sure of everything else around you, but you're very clear on what that 10-year target is. Let's move on into marketing strategy. What I love about EOS is there's actually a marketing seat at the leadership team level. In many of my organizations, marketing wasn't given enough credit to be at the leadership team level. It's not social media. It's not something the intern does. It's where your customer relationship begins. So the marketing strategy answers these questions. It begins with creating a target market or your list of your ideal customer. The questions that you answer here is, what is the geographic, what is the demographic, and what is the psychographic? Now imagine if you had 500 emails to send out, or if you're really old-fashioned, 500 postcards. When you look at the geographic, it's simply, where are they located? What zip codes are you going to put on those 500 postcards? When you get into the demographic, that begins to describe, well, what do they look like? What size of business are they? What's the position you're targeting within that business? What is their role in the organization? Everything that you can use to describe who that target market is. And if it's a B2C, the end use consumer, their age, their preferences, their lifestyles, as much information as you know. That's the demographic. The psychographic, this is the magic right here. The psychographic is, what are they thinking? What do they value? What do they find important? When you know the psychographic, you know their values and their pain points. Those 3 things are incredibly important, but the psychographic is the most important. So now you know where they are, who they are, and what they're thinking. You define your 3 uniques as an organization. That is, what are the 3 things of value that you offer to them? You may share 1 or 2 with your competition, but you certainly will not share all 3. So once you know the psychographic and you take your 3 uniques, it should fit in just like a hand to a glove. This is the receptor, here I am, these are our 3 uniques, and they go, hooray, we love your services, let's talk. The next part of proven process is how you deliver value to your clients over the life cycle of your relationship. And if you'll go to the next slide, I'll share what our proven process is here at EOS Worldwide. And if you self-implement, you can follow the same process. First, I offer a 90-minute meeting or workshop. Looks very similar to what we're doing here today. Then a relationship begins with a focus day. That is, any leadership team needs to get ready for this journey. It's a leading change initiative, and you want to make sure that you're really getting ready for the change in your organization. We build an accountability chart, which I'll talk about. We set goals, learn about great meetings, and set up a scorecard. We then move into 2 full days of answering the 8 questions to the Vision Traction Organizer, which I'm in the middle of going through now. And then there's a quarterly cadence of setting goals for the next 90 days. And at some point, going off day for a 2-day annual. This is the cadence that all companies running on EOS follow, whether they are self-implementing or using outside services for implementation. So that is a proven process. People always know where they are in the consumer process. Take a minute and think about your relationship with your customers. Do they know where they are in your process and what is expected of them at that point in time? Do they know when the next meeting is? And do they know how long the engagement it is? And where can you re-engage to provide the value of your services? All right, let's skip into the next slide. Okay, great. So now we've gone through so far the marketing strategy. The last part there was the guarantee, and that's a statement that simply allows you to remove all risk. Where we have moved now is into the 3-year picture. And you'll see I have a small photograph there of people literally painting a picture. The 3-year picture begins with putting a stake in the ground for what is that future date? What are the revenue numbers you would like your organization to be at that date? What kind of profit numbers do you want to have? That's where we really get focused, laser focused on profit, looking at it and driving to achieve the level that you desire. We define 2 to 3 key measurables that are important for your business: customer retention, client satisfaction, those types of things. And here's where the magic happens in 3-year picture. We ask, what does it look like? 5 to 7 statements for each area. You know, you see a few bullets here so that everyone in the organization would actually see themselves as some part of the 3-year picture. When I ask business owners to deliver this, I actually say, have everyone in your company close their eyes and read it to them like it's a story, like it's the story of your future. And this is where you're all going. And you look around the room and you say, are you all on board? And they say, not, yeah, heck yeah, let's go. So it is really getting crystal clear. And don't be afraid to share your 10-year target, your 3-year picture. Sometimes people are embarrassed and they say, well, I don't really want to share these things with everyone in the organization. You want them to know that you've done this planning, that you're creating a beautiful, healthy organization, and you're inviting the right people to be a part of it. That's the power of the 3-year picture. Creating an amazing 3-year picture, it's also the pivot point. We've now finished the vision document, and we're going to drop down into this the vision part of the document, and we're going to drop down in the next slide, please, to the 1-year plan. You have a great 3-year picture. It's a pivot point between the 10-year and the 1 year. Now, on the bottom, this is the traction part of the vision traction organizer. These are the 3 boxes: the 1-year plan, the rocks, and the issues list. Let me take those each one by one. Next slide, please. The 1-year plan is, notice those same metrics, that future date, probably to the end of this year. The revenue and profit, the measurables are the same. They're compartmentalizing from 3-year into 1 year. You want to have those same metrics for each. And then working through what are the 5 to 7 most important things. If we could accomplish them, that would make for a really great year. One of the things that we look for is less is more. Oftentimes you set 20 things and you're like, yeah, we can do it. And soon you really run out of steam. But when you can crystallize the 5 to 7 goals, it is just going to be amazing, getting everyone rowing in the same direction instead of going in circles over and again. That's how you set a great 1-year plan. In the picture there, you have to take that time to plan. It's very important to go off-site for a whole day to work on the business, not in the business. Get away from the noise and the environment and really agree as a leadership team, what are the 5 to 7 things we can do that would make this year a success. Moving on into the next, rocks. The next slide, quarterly rocks. This comes from a principle by Stephen R. Covey. Put your rocks first. There's a fun video from the 90s. And imagine your work week. It's a vessel. It's a glass vessel. And if you only work, 40 hours, you don't want to work 50. And if your cap is 50, you don't want to work 60. Imagine that your rocks are simply the focus, the goals, the 90-day goals that you put in first. You schedule your calendar. You shut the door for an hour every week and you work on 90-day goals. And the 90-day goals are simply little chunks, 4 little chunks throughout the year, so you make sure that you hit your 1 year at the end of the year. Again, see those same measurables, they carry forward, it's cascading, it's all baked in, the future date, which is 90 days from today. What are your revenue goals for the quarter, your profit goals for the quarter, and your measurables? Again, less is more, 5 to 7. Now there's one new bit of information that popped up here that's different is there is a who, there is a name attached to each of these rocks. Each person in the organization should have 5 to 7 rocks that they're working on to build capacity for the organization. Just slowly, 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 you're building that room to grow into. And one day you open the door and there it is. If you successfully set your rocks, you're building future capacity so you can do more and grow and scale. Let's move on to the last part of the Vision Traction Organizer. We go deep onto this because it's such an important document. Finally, an issues list. And I'll teach you how we bake our way through this later in the presentation. This issues list on the Vision Traction Organizer is, I kind of call it a parking lot. You write down issues that you know are important, but you're simply not going to work on this quarter. It's almost as important to decide what you're not going to be working on as what you actually work on. If you're a business owner, you might say, you know what, we need a new building, but not this quarter, because I know that there's a new software system that we're integrating and we need to be focused on that. I had one organization where the business owner decided to ignore this issues list and they moved the building, and of course the implementation of the software took 3 extra quarters. So writing on your issues list, what do we have to tackle in the future? It's here, it's visible, we'll get to it, simply not now. Those are the 8 questions in the Vision Traction Organizer, and I will actually be providing one of these to your organization if you'd like to get it, or you can get one through me. Whether you use anything on EOS or not, I really implore you, use this document. It will be a game changer in your business. All right, that actually replaces, I have a little joke factor here, the plan that no one ever looked at again, and you spent a lot of money on it. This is something that becomes living, breathing part of your DNA, part of your day-to-day business in operating on EOS. Next slide, please. All right, that's the answer to the 8 questions. Then you find ways to make it shared by all throughout the entire organization. In that process, you answer these questions first as a leadership team and then roll it out until the entire organization sees what a great future you have for the company, who you are at your core, what your core values are, and their part in making it a great company. That's what shared by all looks like. That's what 100% strong is in the vision component. All right, we have a vision. Let's go to the next slide. What do we need? We need people, because we can't do it on our own. The 2 tools under people are the right people in the right seats. I'll get to that at the end, but first I'm going to start with how do we define the right people? We go to the next slide, a tool called the People Analyzer. The People Analyzer is a way to quantify what is usually pretty subjective. You take your core values, and remember I asked you a few minutes ago, do you have core values? And you put them across the top on the People Analyzer. Now I'm going to invite you to write down the name of your best performer, your worst performer, and maybe somebody you're not so sure about. Now evaluate each person against each value. Here in my example, Joanne, she gets all pluses. She demonstrates these core values 80% of the time or better. Martin Gilbert, he's kind of missing on a couple of them. He gets a couple of plus minuses. Actually, he's not doing very well at all. He's a few minuses here. And then Ellen Smith, she's got some pluses. She's probably coachable. No minuses here. But the important thing is to know your bar. So if you have 5 core values, you want to have at least 3 of them as pluses, and maybe you'll find 2 plus minuses acceptable. So this is why your core values are so important. Now you're going to actually measure people against their behavior in the core values. Someone just popped up a question, does EOS work for companies who haven't started a business yet? Actually, getting into the book of reading traction can get you very far ahead if you're in a startup mode. It can apply, so you kind of know how to fit all the pieces together as you grow and build your organization. Typically, it is better for the company that is in business, but I encourage everyone to pick up the book and read it if you want to run a successful business. All right, let's move into the next example of right. So we have right people live our core values. Right seats, we define what is the right structure for the organization. And that is, how do we define each of these little functions so that we are doing everything we need to deliver value to our clients in a profitable way? So here's kind of a goofy example. Think about the role of a hockey center. You want the hockey center to win faceoffs, create scoring changes, score goals, back check and defend, and minimize turnovers. When you look at this, you want to make sure that this hockey center, that they get it, that they absolutely want it, and they have the capacity to do it. Get it means they just woke up this morning with all neurons firing. Yeah, I get it. I want it. I show up every day. I'm passionate about this. And the capacity is both the mental capacity to grow with the job and the time capacity. We want to make sure a person has time to sufficiently do this function. Moving on to the next slide, let's see who might be a great hockey center. So we have Wayne Gretzky. He gets it. Now notice the answers here have changed. It's gone from a plus minus to a yes or no. If someone doesn't get it, you feel it. Wayne Gretzky, yes, he gets it. Yes, he wants it. Yes, he has capacity. Some of these other centers, not so much. They get it, they want it, they don't have the capacity. And Steve Hansen, I don't know, he doesn't get it. So you can see how this works. I've now shared with you the two tools in the people analyzer. The right people live your values, and the right seats is they get it, yes, they want it, yes, and they have the capacity to do that position. I'll invite you, think about some of your problem people that you may have in your organization right now. Are they not living your values? Or maybe they don't understand their seat. With that, let's go to the next slide. To develop your accountability chart, you name each function, create the structure first, and then put the people into it. Define the 5 to 7 roles that that function needs to do, and then you assign the name. Moving on into the next slide. When you've completed a complete accountability chart, this is what it would look like. Your leadership team is the marketing, sales, operations, and finance. All of those in the EOS world are run by a position called the integrator, or someone that integrates all of the different functions in the organization. And 50% of the time you have a seat called a visionary. And this is somebody who's the keeper of the culture, the big ideas. And that's a really beautiful relationship that you can get going if you have both a visionary and an integrator. If you're a business owner right now, I'll ask you, which do you think you are? The big ideas, the keeper of the culture, and maybe 57 ideas a day and lots of shiny things? Or are you the integrator, the person who is integrating and pulling all the parts together to operationalize the business as a whole? Each function on the leadership team creates an accountability chart for their department, and that's what the overall right seats accountability chart looks like for your organization. Moving on into the next slide, we've defined right people, right seats. Now you may be thinking, gee, I have a people issue. Here are the two kinds of people issues you may now find you have in your organization. You have the right person, but they're not sitting in the right seat, meaning they're probably not so good at that seat. Maybe there's another seat for them. That's the good news. You have the wrong person, and they're in the right seat. That's where there's a core values issue. And remember, I shared with you, some of that may be coachable simply by creating awareness of what our values are. But eventually, if you have a misalignment of values, that's really can be toxic and very caustic into the organization. So I hope this has created a level of awareness around people in your organization. And I invite you, make one good people move this quarter. You'll truly feel the difference in your organization. We've gone through the vision component and people component. Let's move on into data. We can only manage what we can measure. Next slide. And I think there's one more. Okay, the data has two components, a scorecard and measurables. The importance of the scorecard is actually looking at metrics on a weekly basis. And here's a quote. Oftentimes, it's very subjective. Jim Barksdale, former Netscape CEO, said, if we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. You ever had days where you're sitting in a meeting and someone says, how are we doing on metrics? And you kind of look around the room for the temperature and you go, well, I think we're doing okay. It's very subjective. It's not really looked at or scrutinized. And the fact of the matter is, you plain don't know. Some of the entrepreneurial companies, the startups that I worked for that never started up, we would look at our quarterly reports. That was very backward looking. We'd all look at the head of finance and say, what happened? And Fred would say, I don't know, they're your numbers. What we're looking for in the EOS worldwide model are very forward-looking indicators. So with that, let's go to company scorecard on the next slide. Next slide, one more. Okay, so company scorecard, it's a snapshot of 13 weeks of rolling data. When you go from left to right here, it's kind of small, but it starts with a column of who. Just like a rock has an owner, each number on your scorecard has a name assigned to it. Next are a set of measurables, and this is a distillation process of discovery as well. What you want to think about are measurables that really are indicators of the metrics on a weekly basis that drive the performance of your organization. Imagine, if you will, you're finally getting to go on that vacation. You've got a great beachfront property in Hawaii or whatever your place of destination is. And the waiter comes over and says, hey, you've won a drawing, you can stay for another week. You look at the measurables on your company scorecard and you see everything is going well and you say, sign me up, I can stay for another week. It is that much of a snapshot of what's happening in your organization. So these measurables are things like weekly revenue, cash balance, proposals sent, amount of business closed, how many errors have you made? Each leader on the leadership team will have 5 to 7 metrics, and then departments have their own scorecard as well. What you said is a weekly goal. What number do we want to hit? And then the magic here, once you've started to populate your scorecard, look at this beautiful 13-week rolling. I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I did last week, much less 13 weeks. But here you can see where the red numbers are. And as your pipeline moves along, you can say, wow, our cash balance is off because, 4 weeks ago, our numbers were in the red, so we're not meeting our goals. It helps you get things back on track. Every person has a measurable or a number. That's the who assigned to it. And that's the beauty and the magic of the company scorecard. Any questions? I'm going to take a minute and just see, are there any questions so far? Because I'm going to drop down and it's going to go a little bit more quickly. I've gone through the vision, the people, and the scorecard. Are there any questions I can answer at this point in time?
There are a couple, Victoria, but we can address them at the end.
Okay, great. I just wanted to catch up to where we are. Fantastic. All right, so let's move on. We have a vision, we have people, we're measuring their performance. As I shared with you, now we have issues. Move on to the next slide. That shows where we are in the model. Notice I'm not going in clockwise or counterclockwise, but in a very specific order, dropping down into the issues component. Next slide. Every business at the center does have issues. There are 2 tools in the issue component that help you address those. The first is actually called the issues list, and the second is a process called IDS. Next slide, please. It shows both of those. Over to the right, you see the issues list. Getting in the habit of actually writing your issues down as they occur and keeping them on a list. Again, visibility, transparency, putting them on the list. And then at a weekly meeting, going through a process called IDS. Oftentimes when we have issues, we're not even really clear on it. Somebody says a word, a sentence, everybody begins to weigh in. There's politicking, there's storytelling, there's drama, it's group therapy. And we always spend our time in discuss. When you IDS, you spend all of your time on identify whose issue is this? Who are you talking to? What do you need? Only until you're very clear on the issue can your discussion be meaningful and purposeful towards finding a solve. You know that you're getting ready for that solve when the conversation becomes a little repetitive and, circling the airport, and you say, all right, what's the solve? The solve is a next step and a person assigned to it. Next time you're sitting in a meeting and you hear an issue come up, try this tool. Let's get really clear on the issue before we discuss and solve. Over here on the list, notice there are numbers. When you have a whole list, you come into your weekly meeting that I'll get to next in the traction component. Don't go in order top to bottom. You'll never get to the meaty stuff that's waiting there for you. Prioritize 1, 2, and 3, knock them off. Next ones, 1, 2, and 3, knock them off. That's how you chunk your way through the list. Never top to bottom, but in order of priority for that week. That is the magic of identify, discuss, and solve. You're welcome, because now you will get frustrated when someone isn't following that process. Okay, moving on, that's the issue solving track, keeping the issues list and IDS. Moving into the next slide, get into the process component. Okay, so there are two tools here in process. The next slide shares what those are. First, it is documenting your process. That's creating your franchise model, and followed by all. So let me share with you on the next slide what the documented process looks like. It begins with defining your handful of core processes that you have. Certainly you have process around people, you're hiring your decisions, you're managing people, you're onboarding, you're offboarding, you're recruiting. In marketing, you have a handful of process. In sales, probably in different divisions of operations, how you deliver customer service and accounting. Again, that principle, less is more, keeping it very simple. Moving on into the next slide. You begin to get it through the funnel by creating a table of contents. What would those people processes be? Marketing, sales, just develop that. Then you move on into the next slide. Within that table of contents, you create a process for each. Again, define the 20% that gets 80% done. This is not a huge, binder. It's something that's going to live in your organization. In fact, I like those 5 to 7 bullets in your process to actually match to the 5 to 7 bullets in the accountability chart. What does it mean in hiring? Boom, boom. What does it mean in onboarding and training? Boom, boom. Just a little more color under each. And then finally, moving into the end result is you will have your company way of a document that shares the best, most profitable way to deliver your products and services to your client each and every time. Moving on into the next slide. I love this quote from the founder of the Four Seasons Hotels. They always give top-notch service. If you can systemize the predictable, which is your process, you can humanize the exceptional. Think about it. They have a way to deliver, room service every time, and that leaves it to the person who's delivering to fold the napkin and looking like a swan. They humanize the exceptional. You can actually allow people to be very original once you have the process followed. But the process is the most important. That is systemizing your business. Moving on into the other tool in the process component, it is followed by all. Followed by all, well, here's a handy checklist on the next slide. What does followed by all mean? It means you have to train people. It means that you have to measure people. Some of their measurables might be around your documented process. It means you have to lead and manage and create accountability or coach them to the right and best way of doing things. And finally, you have to update your process. It can't be a one and done. It has to be something that's brought up periodically and renewed, and you need someone to own that. So that is the followed by all checklist. If you have any training at all that's happening in the next quarter for new employees, I implore you, write this down. Think about your training program, thinking about how you'll measure success, think about how you will coach them to follow the process, and think about how you'll update it. And most importantly, who owns that? All right, so we've gone through, we're nearly at my favorite, which is traction. Next slide, please. We're at the bottom of the wheel. Remember, vision without traction is hallucination. Going into the next slide, the two tools in the traction component are rocks. Remember the 90-day goals. We covered that when we reviewed the Vision Traction Organizer. And then my favorite, meetings. Really great meetings help you gain traction. As you can imagine, there is a process for having what we call a level 10 meeting in the EOS process. Next slide, please. Our meeting pulse is encouraging our clients to live in a 90-day world. So once a day or once a quarter, coming together to get aligned on the business, and then coming back and having a weekly meeting following this meeting pulse. Your leadership team meetings or any meeting in your organization is always on the same day. It's at the same time. It starts on time. What a concept. It ends on time, and you follow the same agenda. What a beautiful and simple process. The only reason you miss these meetings are you are either on vacation on that beach in Hawaii, you have left the company, or something worse has happened. So that's the meeting pulse, keeping that commitment pure and clear and working on the business for 90 minutes once a week will change your world. All right, what is that same agenda? Victoria, please share this with us. Next slide. Here is a level 10 meeting agenda, and we call it a level 10 because at the end, you actually score yourself. And I will get to that at the end of this agenda. Start with the good news. Just 5 minutes. We're all human beings here trying to make a difference. What's our professional and personal best? Then we do a reporting section, reporting only, of looking at that scorecard, reviewing your rocks. Are they on track or off track? Are your scorecard numbers on track or off track? 5 minutes to review customer and employee headlines. What's the news we need to share? Good things about our customers, good things about our employees, challenging things about our customers, not so good about our employees. That's reporting. That's how you're building your issues list. Your to-do list, this is a nice part of accountability. Last week, when you had solves, you had things that needed to get done. Did you close the loop on those? Did they actually get completed? Now, a full 60 minutes to IDS. Remember that process I taught you? Identify, discuss, and solve your issues. 5 minutes, you conclude, state what those next steps are, and at the end, rate the meeting. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being nirvana, how did we do? If you showed up, you did good work, and you left with a sense of alignment, that's what a 10 looks like. Don't beat yourself up and give yourself hard scores. If you're doing your best, that's a 10. You may find your meeting scores are pretty awful at first because it feels weird, but eventually they get really well aligned and you get a lot of lift here. So please, another tool, another takeaway to help you get what you want from your business is this level 10 meeting agenda. Moving on into the next slide. We're almost done. We're going to finish on time. Those are the two tools in the traction component, setting 90-day goals and meeting once a week for 90 minutes. Moving on to the next slide. Getting results. Okay, here's where I'm going to ask you, what are your takeaways? The next slide, I've shared with you the model. You need to create a more clear vision for your organization. Do you have some people moves that you need to address in the next 90 days? Could you do a better job at measuring the metrics that drive your business or giving every person in your organization a number? Do you need to get better at setting your issues up, knocking them down, making them go away for good? Are there some process that you would benefit from documenting them and training? Or are you going to begin with setting 90-day rocks or just having a weekly meeting? With that, let me review what the foundational tools are that I've gone through on the next slide. They're listed. These are the simple pieces of paper that you can now run your business on EOS. Answering the 8 questions in the Vision Traction Organizer, creating an accountability chart that is the right structure for your organization, setting 90-day goals, having weekly meetings, or developing your scorecard. Next steps, I'm going to ask, how will you achieve your goal? How can you achieve that 5 to 7 year goal? Which tool do you plan on using? Please act within 48 hours. Book some time on your calendar right now, before Friday. Take an action, take a step, have a conversation, have a meeting, share this with someone. Please find a copy of Traction by Gino Wickman. And there are more tools available through myself. I'm happy to share with you anything specific and at EOS Worldwide. Moving on to our final slide. My core value of how can I help is my most valued. If there's anything I can do for you, if you're starting a business, struggling with a business, or having so much success you don't know how to operationalize it, I'm here to help. Please find me on LinkedIn. I will accept anyone's offer to connect. And if you'd like me to bring this workshop to your team, I can do that either here in person or through Zoom. That's been a beautiful, magical tool that I've certainly appreciated from this time of COVID. So reaching out virtually. And most of all, just stay focused. Start running your business instead of it running you. And you'll have eventually what we call the EOS Life. And with that, I'll close and ask questions. The EOS Life is doing what you love with people you truly care about because they live your values, being appropriately compensated because you run a healthy company, you making a difference in this world because you know what business you're in and how to deliver your value, and having time to pursue other passions. Work, nobody died wanting to work another day, so it's important to have that work-life balance. So I hope today will help you live your EOS life. And with that, I would love any questions people have.
Thank you so much, Victoria. What a great presentation with a lot of detail. You structured it really well. And I'm so grateful that you had the opportunity to share all this knowledge with our audience. You know, thank you to everyone that has been watching this presentation live and to the ones that are going to be watching it later. We have a few questions, Victoria. The first one is it says, is the company scorecard available in the book?
Is the company's what available?
The scorecard.
Oh, yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. Mm-hmm.
Because someone mentioned that they really like how it is structured, and they want to know. And as a follow-up to that one, where can they get the book?
The book is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and if you visit TractionLibrary.com, you will see there are different books available for different people. What the Heck is EOS is actually one for when you roll it out to the entire organization. And as I shared with you, I have 5 copies of this in Spanish. I'm happy to send to you for distribution to your members.
Oh, thank you. So Amazon, well, literally you can buy it online. So if it is on Amazon, that's your main source.
Yes.
Maybe we can, we'll share the link under this presentation so you can have easy access to it. The other question, you answered it throughout your presentation, but if you want to reinforce that comment that you made, it says, do you work with people who haven't started their business yet?
Yes, I have one client currently based in the Midwest. They are startup mode. They are of a size where they're actually getting financing rounds of $5 million. So they are they're doing a software startup. So part of that is investing in the EOS process. So if it is an enterprise that's getting those rounds of financing, EOS can work because they've developed a leadership team. If you are a solopreneur and you just have an idea and you haven't hired anyone yet, you can still answer those 8 questions in the Vision Traction Organizer. I run my practice off of EOS. And in my early days, I actually helped 2 business owners form their business. It was an online media company, and they're now at $3 million in revenue. So we both helped each other out.
That's great. So the other one is ideal clients for your consulting business, Victoria.
Sure. I look for companies entrepreneurial in nature with 10 to 250 employees, anywhere from 2 to 50 million in revenue, with a leadership team or some version thereof. And again, looking for my psychographic, they're more afraid of the status quo than their willingness to change. They're really ready for something different, and they're open to going on basically what's a 1.5 to 2-year journey with me.
And can you provide your services online? Like, I guess they were referring to like video conferences and stuff.
Yes, as a matter of fact, my last 4 clients I've started have all been on referral, and I have done all the work online. And some I'll be meeting for the very first time at the end of this year. But because of Zoom, I have found ways to make the meetings very engaging and interactive. And there's some pre-work involved, but most people will say, wow, the day is gone. I can't even believe we've been at this for the time. So yes, it can be virtual anywhere in the world.
That's perfect. And, there are some good comments, about your presentation, like Vanessa saying, like, great presentation. Thank you for everything that you provided. Sure. What's the other one I wrote down here? You addressed the one about the values. How many core values someone asked?
Okay.
Do you want to elaborate a little more?
Oh, sure. Core values 5 to 7 is the best number. 5 is most memorable. I actually brought EOS to a nonprofit. Once a year, I choose a nonprofit and provide my services pro bono. And they went down to 3. I was like, wow, that's the fewest anyone has ever had, but they were perfect, they were elegant, they were very clear, they served the organization. And so anywhere from 3 to 5. More, because I ask business leaders, you need to know the values, walk the walk, talk the talk, and I quiz people. And so you want your people to know what they are.
Does the entrepreneurial operating system work for any business, or is it specifically for businesses in certain industries?
Oh, great question. It is industry agnostic, I like to say. Any industry it works in. I have clients in financial services, greenhouse manufacturing, chiropractic, cement, construction. I have yet to find an industry where it doesn't work. If you have people and you need to manage human energy, it's going to work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you go through your presentation, your vision, people, data, issues. I mean,
Yeah.
the first two I think are key, because you have to have a vision and then the right team to make that vision happen. So, yeah, if you have people, this process definitely works. Anything else that you would like to add, Victoria? Because I know that we're a little over time, and I want to be respectful of your time too.
Sure, absolutely. I believe the last year has provided all of us the opportunity to reset in both our personal and our professional lives. I think it's important to get really clear on what you want out of your life. I encourage practices like journaling and reflecting. And I would say there's no better time to make the changes in your personal life and your business. The economy is going to open up, it's going to come back, and I believe it's everyone's opportunity to really improve upon the reset of business. So begin with taking a first step, taking an action. Don't wait for a grand plan. Just begin the process. Activity will yield results before you know it. And so I implore you, just do something, reach out, and if I can help you in any way, I'm here.
And I think right now, Victoria, and I'm glad that you mentioned the pandemic, but we have seen it with a lot of our members and business owners that follow us, that a lot of them are going through the process of transformation. They are adjusting to the new reality. Some of them are adjusting to the new economy, the digital economy. They are incorporating the digital economy as part of their business model, something that they were not doing before. And for us, I mean, it's something really exciting, because it's the one thing that we have been promoting since 2008. We want more small businesses fully engaged in the digital economy, and now I see that as a way for our country to compete more strategically globally, not just in the US, but globally. And it is important for US-based businesses to really integrate the digital economy as part of their business model. And we understand that process, and especially for businesses that have been in business for a few years, and that they are in that bracket that you mentioned, above $10 million, $5 million. It's not that easy, because what it was working for them before, they were like, why do I have to change things, right? But now I think this pandemic is forcing a lot of them to adjust to this new environment. And I think these processes like this one are going to help them to optimize their operation and be more strategic about how they conduct and run their business in the marketplace. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Very well said. You've getting people to change is very difficult. We've been through so much of that. So leverage that momentum and just keep it going and make your businesses strong. I feel like small businesses, we have to help ourselves. We don't get a lot of help. And so use the tools that help you advance yourself. This is the best opportunity I've seen in my lifetime. And you can see I've been working a long time. So I think that says a lot.
If you want to remind us one last time your contact information for those that want to reach out to you, Victoria.
Thank you so kindly. Yes, Victoria at velocity, the number 6.com, Victoria at velocity6.com. My name is Victoria Cabot, and I'm a certified EOS implementer. Please find me on LinkedIn, either place. I'd be happy to get back to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Victoria, for your time. This is your house, and you're always welcome, especially
Oh,
with
thank
this
you.
level of knowledge that you share. The Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce and the U.S. Business Association of E-commerce consider them two outlets for you to keep sharing your knowledge, and we will be happy to have you at a later time again.
Thank you so much. This is only the first of many times that I hope we share time together. So thank you for your time and for everyone who joined in today. I hope that you got good value and make an investment in yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everyone that was watching, and for those that are watching this amazing presentation later. Please share it. It is important that more business owners understand that there are these kind of tools in the marketplace to help them succeed as business owners and with their businesses. So, thank you again, Victoria. Have a nice evening, and thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers
Cheers.
to you.
Bye bye.